Well, good evening. This is the Legislative Committee, and it is Monday, June 9th. It's 5 p.m. Well, 5:06, sorry. We've had an opportunity to look at the minutes from a previous meeting. Is there any corrections?
Nope, I think they're good.
Thank you, Carrie. And Bonnie. We are now under the section of public comment. Andy, if you'd like to speak, this is your opportunity. Just give your name and who you're representing.
Sure. Andy Mason, I'm the president of the Delaware RCO Audubon Society, and I know at least three of you here have heard my pitch for non-toxic ammunition, and what sort of prompted this was the proposed legislation to expand hunting with firearms in the parks. And we support the deer management plan. We realize that there are issues with the deer overpopulation, car collisions, conflicts with the public, ecological damage. So we do realize that the population needs to go down, and it may well be that firearms are necessary to achieve that. What our concern is using lead ammunition for that purpose. Lead ammo is it's a toxic material. It ends up in the venison. It spreads quite a distance throughout a deer when it's hit. It also gets mixed in when the venison is ground up, which is very common. And so it's a toxic material for the people that eat the venison, particularly children. Lead is a known issue for children. And it's also a problem for wildlife. Bald eagles and other scavengers feed on wounded deer and also the entrails that are left behind after the deer are shot. And there's a real spike in lead-poisoned eagles following big game season. The wildlife rehabilitators end up with a lot of them. Most of them don't survive. If they do survive, they're really not able to survive once they're released. They have neurological damage. So the change for non-toxic ammunition is, we believe, relatively simple. It's available. It's slightly more expensive than lead ammo, but for the amount of bullets that an average hunter uses, the increased expense is almost nothing. And so most hunters that have used it, copper bullets, find that it's better ballistically. It does a better job of killing the deer. It's more accurate. And so once hunters have tried it, they usually stick with it. So that's our concern, and I hope we could add language to this pending change in the code to require non-toxic ammunition for hunting on city-owned lands, particularly parks, but also out on the lands outside the city. So we drafted some brief legislation there that we think would accomplish that. And it references the Fish and Wildlife Service's list of certified non-toxic ammunition, which is kind of the standard for defining non-toxic ammo.
Cool.
Well, thank you, Andy, for
Sure.
coming
Thanks.
forward today, and thank you for your time to talk with us. Kate, you left the language on your
Yep,
desk.
I've seen it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Being no other public comment, we'll move on. Is there any correspondence?
No,
Maybe someday.
we can hope.
Okay, so we have to go back over the discharge of firearms, chapters 194, Parks and Recreation, and 294, Weapons,
Yep.
the non-lead bullets.
Yep.
Yes.
Not sure how you guys feel, but for me, I believe that we should use something other than lead for what little bullets will be expelled in this endeavor over deer. It sounds like they're apples for apples in cost, and preventing danger to children and or would just make the correction to the word copper. Is there any other additions or subtractions to the piece that Andy's provided?
So this one is specific to chapter 194, but we would mirror the language under chapter 294.
Right.
I don't have any questions, I'm just wondering how that looks.
So you would update sorry, Ann.
Yeah,
Go
please.
ahead.
You would update 294,
Uh-huh.
and then 194 sub 8 indicates that provided such activities are conducted in accordance with all applicable state and local laws and regulations, so it would mirror, so you wouldn't have any of the redundancy. We wouldn't have to worry about changing it in multiple.
Oh, okay.
Cool. Good. Okay. Awesome.
Good catch on the copper.
So the only thing I would like.
Opera.
So the only thing I would like to add is for those that are participating in the deer management program, that they sign off saying that they will use non-lead.
Yeah. So we talked about that at Parks, how it could be, like practically, how it could be enforced, and there's an assumption of honesty, of course. I think having them sign is a great idea. And then the other thing that we floated was that because people, well, so basically that it's a privilege, right? It's a kind of above and beyond your regular hunting permit, and so especially if you sign something that said you wouldn't, there's the assumption that you would take that seriously. And then the other piece is that I believe that, I'm actually pretty confident that hunters under the permitting system have to report their harvest to the deer management coordinator, and so there may be a mechanism there for like ensuring that it was taken accordingly.
So currently though, no one has to sign anything to hunt on city property, correct? That's the way I understand it. So if they go up in and around the reservoir, all 1,400 acres that the city owns, they can just go.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're right about the honesty
Okay.
factor of it, but now it's about how to get that information out there so that if they want to hunt on the city property, they need to use non-lead bullets
Oh, gosh.
or firearms, sorry. So I'm not quite sure that mechanism. I don't know
Right.
if we can talk. Go ahead, Chris.
I just want to know who is going to enforce this, because
Right.
the police department, the city department does not oversee the watershed lands.
Right.
And had conversations with the town constable and the sheriff's department, and they feel that they will not enforce city lands. I'm talking about purely the people swimming in the reservoir. I find this would be very difficult to have someone regulate this request.
Sure.
Right.
And just keep in mind that the city code does not apply outside the city, so
Correct.
the watershed areas are not affected by this proposed.
Okay.
You know, city-owned land, we're like a private property owner, we can set our own rules there, you know,
Mhm.
but again, it comes down to enforcement, and there's no mechanism in the code to enforce that. City police cannot enforce outside of the city jurisdictions.
Right. So one thing that we talked about with, and I'm kind of like blending things now,
You're what?
I'm kind of like blending topics,
blending.
because we talked about a lot about the Wilbur Lake Recreation Area, and I know that there's hunting up there, and so that's kind of what we're talking about now, but in terms of like partnership with the DEC, like, do you know if there's any possibility to have them like routinely or semi-routinely, like monitor that area?
In the past,
Uh-huh.
It's been a few years since I've spoken with anyone at DEC, but a local, our region's environmental conservation officer would
Mhm.
sometimes go up there
Mhm.
and check out things and kick people out if they're trespassing in the areas that used to be restricted.
Mhm.
But I'm not sure how regularly that happened. I don't think it was very often.
Sure.
I don't know.
Okay.
And it's no longer considered a cooperative hunting and fishing area. DEC doesn't have that program anymore.
Oh, no.
It was created in the 70s, and we just assumed it was still a thing, but
wanted signs to say that this is a non-lead hunting area, we would have to provide that.
Yeah, anything you wanna do with our property is our.
And in terms of, well, yeah, you said that they won't enforce anything on our property, the other like Lawrence or the town. I mean, the sheriff has jurisdiction, right?
We've asked them to enforce swimming at Willow Lake, and not well received.
Okay.
Yeah, I think realistically, you know, have to depend on the law-abiding nature of hunters. And honestly, I think most hunters are law-abiding, you know, and not 100% of course, but
Yeah.
you know, I think particularly on city land, because they know that, you know, it is a privilege of a sort to be able to hunt there.
Yeah, I mean, with this specifically, because it's like in the parks, although there's some other questions about that, just like feasibility of hunting in the parks with firearms, but, so, I mean, we could theoretically, like, if we're, I mean, I think it's worthwhile legislation just to set the bar, right?
Mhm.
Even if it's not easily enforceable. To your point, we can work on getting the information out, maybe when permits are issued, there could just be a little blurb that says, please note, city, that hunting in the city of Oneonta prohibits the use of lead-based ammunition. It could go on the website, our website, but also, I don't know where you get a hunting license, I don't hunt, the county,
So,
DEC.
if you owned, say, 10, 12 acres of land, and I wanted to hunt deer on your land, I would come and ask for permission,
Right.
but yet we don't do that. So, can't we concentrate on that mechanism and say that if you wanna hunt on city property, you have to have permission? And within that context, they come to the city clerk, and yes, it's a base of honesty, that they're gonna say yes to no lead firearms, but it would be there in that first document. Then you would actually know how many people are at least coming to ask permission to hunt on the city property.
Hmm?
I think that would require properly posting our boundaries,
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
which we don't have anywhere up there.
So like you're saying, a signage that says no hunting without a permit,
Something along this.
city permit.
City
From
owned
here.
lands, permission must be obtained, something like that.
Uh-huh. And again, like, I mean, most people might do it, but we don't really have an enforcement mechanism if people are doing it unless like somebody happens to drive by.
Right, I mean, but didn't you mention that you were pretty confident that when you fill out the DEC permit, that they were saying on there that they didn't use lead
Well, so not quite.
harvested, or?
But, yes, so with the DMAP program, they get a special permit, and that's what I'm wondering is like, if you can hunt at Wilbur Lake, why are we issuing special permits like that?
We're issuing an additional tag.
Oh, yeah,
So
extra.
they can take an additional tier,
Oh, okay,
where otherwise they can only get, you know, what teaching all along.
okay, gotcha, okay, so it's a plus one,
And that's tied to the property.
okay,
We reach
gotcha,
that tag at our property.
okay. But you have to report, do you have to report harvest? I wish I knew more about hunting.
You are legally required to report your harvest,
But only under the DMAP or all hunting?
all hunting.
Oh,
I believe you have 7 days to report it.
is free.
The DMAP one is
Free.
Anything that requires a tag, so if you're hunting deer, you gotta report it in 7 days. If you're hunting turkey, you gotta report it in 7 days. But like small game, like rabbits, squirrels, that kind of thing is not required reporting.
so maybe we look into the reporting, I mean, it's like not my thing, so I will totally need
Right.
to, like,
I was just
involve
looking
myself.
up bullet cost. I don't know if anybody, has anyone bought bullets? Anybody? Okay, well, it turns out that they are like a third more expensive.
Okay.
So, from what I'm seeing, and mind you, I have no idea about bullets.
Are you comparing them to regular lead ammunition or premium lead ammunition?
No, it's the closest, I don't wanna use it as like a statistic, I'm just saying, they cost. The ones that I looked at like 3 or 4 different ones, and they do cost a bit more. So, out of curiosity, is there a way maybe we can like finagle where it's like if you come get a permit, hey, we are not, no lead. Here's some lead bullets to get you started, non-lead bullets to get you started. Like, and then get people like adjusted, right, to like the change that is happening and not have it feel forced on them that they have to go do this. Because once we do it for a while, right, and make it like a thing, then maybe we don't have to, throw them off like bullets or a pack. But like, do you know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like,
No, I get it, but I don't know if I wanna be purchasing.
or we can give them a coupon. Or Katie had great ideas about having only places in the city that sell it only the lead-free ones. Right? We were at
It wasn't
council.
my idea, but yeah.
Wait, that wasn't your idea?
It was just from someone who was on Parks, so I was just
Oh.
relaying it, yeah.
Either way, right? Like, we can help people maybe like not feel like they're eating this cost immediately if they weren't anticipating it. Because people will be less likely to want to follow the rule if they feel like it's being forced upon them.
That's true.
So if we say, hey, yeah, we get that you're eating cost on this, so here's this coupon, 20% off, whatever, here's
It's an expensive hobby, the firearm, the clothes. the
No
special
idea.
Spray stuff. Yeah,
no.
it's not like go buy a soccer ball,
But this is going to be a change for people. So
it's
it's
definitely
like,
gonna be a change.
the easier we can kind of make it that we get it, we understand, hey, here.
Yes.
After a few years, it's, common knowledge, right? We're only doing lead free.
I think your point is good, and I also think that, like, not dying from lead poisoning is a good motivator, so I would hope that that would be enough. But I know what you're saying is like,
But,
the
like,
government,
And I think that like people who don't have, I mean, I'm not saying that these exactly do, but like I've had like when I had my daycare, I had people who hunted and that's how they ate through the winter. And so if you only have $15 to go buy bullets, you're probably not gonna splurge because you're trying to get food in the freezer.
right,
So it's like, I'm not saying that's our only population, but it is a population, and I don't know who,
Yeah.
whatever.
but then it disproportionately affects people who are lower income,
Right.
lead poisoning. I mean, this would disproportionately affect them in terms of access, but also like the lead poisoning thing is disproportionately
Like, so
impacting them
that
as well.
that
Right.
30% is better for their own health if they're gonna consume the product, because
Right.
the lead is spread throughout that.
Definitely. But I think like helping absorb the initial shock and cost of it and then making it like a thing that's kind of expected after some time. But for everyone, not just,
Yeah.
for everyone.
I wonder if we could just partner with a local business who would offer, like, based on the new legislation, would offer a discount. Like, we
Who
can't
sells-
ask them to do that, but we could be like,
Losey's gun shop.
hey, are you excited?
Oh,
I don't know.
okay. Okay.
All the way up.
Southside.
Yeah. And then, Sportsman's Adventures, right, which is right by Home Depot. It's like up,
Oh yeah, across.
yeah, we can meet.
Near-
I've never been either.
They do sell.
Who?
Walmart.
Oh.
Right. But
Does
interestingly
Dick's-
enough, you
Dick's
can
still-
like Google,
What's that?
Dick's doesn't
you
sell
can like Google
ammunition.
stuff and find
Okay.
out Walmart's. how much
Acres.
ammunition is.
Well,
I think
how about
they do
we
Dick's.
get through this, if there's people that come to the city clerk or any one of us and start complaining about that additional cost, then we'll come back and revisit this.
Okay, I mean, because if people are pissed off and complaining, they're not gonna say anything to you most of the time. They're just gonna not follow the rule.
I heard a lot about fireworks lately.
That was different. But if I'm like, if I'm frustrated with you and I'm out there already and I just want to hunt, you think I'm gonna stop and be like, Len told me not to hunt without
I
knowing?
can tell you that I had two men, one living in my ward, one, his son not living in my ward, give me the earful on whether they could hunt by the lake or not. I'm like, okay, let me get you some answers.
Okay.
They do call.
Okay, let's do this first, and then I think, you know,
If we start hearing complaints, then we'll take care of it. We'll figure
why
it
are we waiting for complaints though?
I'll share with you all my.
You're waiting for the fireworks people to be mad again.
I hope not. I hope we saw that tonight.
Okay, but the concern is heard that this is gonna be like a cost increase,
From what
and
I'm
so we
saying.
keep that in mind. Maybe we
Correct.
don't wait for complaints, but we continue to brainstorm around it. But yeah, it doesn't need to be a reason to hold it up if we all think it's worth
Oh, yes.
conversation.
I definitely don't think we should hold it up.
Okay, yeah,
I just, how are we gonna get them? Go ahead, Chris.
sorry, I keep,
What are we going to do if it reduces the number of participants in our herd reduction?
do that situation. Well, so, what I'm wondering is like, I guess this only really applies to like the reservoir areas, but like, because you can't, I mean, there's no, like, the parks aren't big enough to hunt with a firearm because of adjacent properties. I mean, even if you emptied the park. So that's like bow, like, if we get there, that's like bow hunting, right? So I mean, I feel like,
We're down to the 1,400 acres that are outside the city
Yeah.
boundaries for city-owned property. That's what we're dealing with.
yeah, I mean, I can't speak for
To
others,
Chris's
but-
point, I guess, in the complaints department, if we start hearing of more folks saying, well, I was going to participate, but then I have to buy non-lead
Yeah.
Are you hearing this, or this is you're just,
The big trouble is going to be that everyone takes their gun in with lead ammunition. They're not going to go and switch to non-lead ammunition to hunt just one property.
Right.
That's the difficulty. And the other issue is there's so many people that have purchased ammunition over the years, so they have a lot of
Stockpile.
ammunition. And they're not gonna go and buy the more expensive ammunition because they bought it much cheaper 10, 15 years ago. I think we're gonna have a tough time getting people to participate on our.
In the DMAC.
see what I said we should give a coupon?
DEC actually currently has a program where they give people a voucher to buy a box of
Really?
non-lead.
Great.
We can't just point that out.
Yeah,
way.
or- I think we
It's
should.
in a limited geographic area,
Oh,
but I do believe it's been expanded to include Otsego County.
oh,
It
great.
started in the southern tier, but
I wonder if we couldn't apply for it and ask for a bunch, and then that way we're not making people go.
And the other thing that you had mentioned is that there is a statewide initiative to ban lead ammunition, and that's at the state legislature right now.
It's not gonna stop the dude with a box of ammunition, he needs to use that.
That's true, that's true. But it is something that could, could help in our area if it were to pass for the city. I mean, eventually, right, it would fizzle out.
Were you able to give us information on what you were just talking about, the voucher?
Yeah, I can, I think just the way it works, if the owner has to purchase the ammo and then present the receipt to DEC, or DEC gives them the voucher to purchase it, and then there is a reporting requirement, they have to report that they did use it, what their, if they had success with it, and what their opinions is of it.
So, Chris, you kind of make me ask the question of, you're sighting in with lead ammunition, and when you go to use a non-lead ammunition,
Shot shoot the same.
it doesn't shoot the same.
No. Each bullet, even manufacturers, Winchester, to Hornady, to Remington, to Federal, each ammunition shoots differently out of every single gun. So when someone wants to be accurate, make sure they're gonna have a good kill, they sight in with the ammunition they're gonna hunt with. So typically that's a box of ammunition, so 20 rounds. Have your gun sighted in for the hunting season. You're not going to change that ammunition for that season, typically.
Chris, gosh, you know so much more about this than you let on.
I'm glad we
He
did
lives
this.
out, he lives where he can do it.
Okay, but, okay, so maybe, I wonder, okay, so could we contact the EC and say, can we get some vouchers? We'll keep the numbers on this and the information and report it back to you. And then that way, there's no like middleman, it's like, here, just go get your thing.
Non-lead ignition DC thing, let's see. Rebate of up to $60. That was last year. They expect to continue the study and rebate program for the 25-26 hunting seasons. Yeah, we could link people,
Provide the
we could
information.
provide the information.
Absolutely.
It's Hunters for Eagle Conservation,
Good.
New York.
Okay.
Rebate forms, submissions will be held for qualification for the 2025 hunting season. Rebates for 1 box of factory-loaded non-lead ammunition or 1 box of lead-free bullets for reloading up to $60 to eligible hunters after completion of the post-hunt survey. So, I'll just send this to you guys. Thank you for bringing that up. That's good.
Yeah, I think that, you know, that does ease the hunters into it, you know. And from what I understand about that program, when they tried it in the southern tier, they did not get as good a response as they were hoping for, which
Right.
is why they've expanded the area to
Okay.
get, you know, so the money is there to do it, and, you know, so it's now more widespread.
So we'll be able to provide information on how to get to the voucher. So that takes us back, or takes me back to, do we want people to get permission to hunt on city-owned land outside the city boundaries? Because
I mean,
it would be nice, but I hear what Chris is saying about enforcement. It seems as though there's not one agency that's willing to go out there and say, oh, by the way,
Right.
do you have,
yeah, I mean, I think especially now that the Wilbur Lake recreation area is what it is, that might be a good idea, just because, I mean, but it's sort of antithetical to like what we're trying to do, right? It's to make it harder to hunt on city-owned property. Like, because, you know, there are gonna be people out there fishing and walking around and whatever, and so the DEC thing from a couple of years ago was a constituent of mine who said, hey, are you allowed to hunt up here? Because I was just like walking with my husband and we heard gunshots and we kind of freaked out, and maybe a sign would be nice just to let people know that you can hunt up there. And, you know, if you think about the idea is to encourage more people to use that location recreationally, perhaps there is some benefit to restricting hunting, but then on the other hand, we have this program to expand hunting. So I think we just have to decide like which way we wanna go.
I guess I'm not viewing it as, I'm making it harder for them to hunt on the land. I'm gonna turn to Chris and you give your honest answer. If you wanna hunt on your neighbor's land, what do?
You ask them.
You go and ask them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if someone wants to hunt on the city-owned land, they should come and ask. Of which, that's when they're gonna get the voucher or the information for the voucher for the non-lead, and they're gonna understand that to hunt on the property we want.
I mean, it sounds good to me.
Can I just give you an example about the information, because you keep saying the information with the voucher. Like I know people or like had experience with people who like, you know, like WIC, right? WIC is a great program for families and stuff. But there were people who would not use WIC even though they really needed it because it came in check form. And they had to take every single individual check, find the exact same thing that matched the check, take it to the register, pair the check up with the food item. Sometimes it was the wrong ounces or the wrong brand or the wrong thing. They'd have it denied. They wouldn't be able to get. They put a barrier in between the person because they were so like, but like, and so they would stop using it. People would just not use WIC because it became more problematic and frustrating to go about using it instead of getting the help. So I think like to not put ourselves in that situation, trying to see if we can get the vouchers trying to cut out that, you know, in between and make it more accessible. The less amount of steps for them, the better. It's true.
Yeah, I mean, and I think sort of back to Shannon's original point, which is like, I think that I like what you're saying, but I'm not a hunter. So putting myself in their shoes, and I can't speak for them, but I'm just thinking about like what you're saying, which is that like, if it's never been a problem to do it before, and obviously this is not how we want to run the city, but if it's never been a problem to do it before, and we're suddenly imposing license, I mean, again, I think that your kind of trajectory of like having people register and then we can, you know, there's like a tracking mechanism to follow the law, we can provide them with this coupon, like this is great, but like they may just say, I'm not gonna do that because it was never a problem before.
Right,
Like,
and
quick
I
thing.
recognize that the enforcement aspect of this is gonna be a problem.
Right.
We go back to like, so back to Chris, you have neighbors that maybe have 100, 200 acres of land. The reason why you go do that is, one, it's neighborly to ask for permission to go on somebody's property, whether you're gonna hunt or cut down trees or do whatever. But it's also for them to know exactly how many people are hanging out on their property.
Right.
And so you could say, well, yeah, Chris, I don't mind you hunting on my land, but Bob is over here in the north 40, you're over here in the southwest corner.
Mhm.
You know, kind of bridge it off, because I don't know what they're doing on city property. I've seen vehicles in and around the Lower Lake, generally on the hillside is where I've seen them go up before, but where they are in relation to each other, I don't know.
Right.
Who's gonna manage that?
I feel like we need signs though, because that's our property, and if someone gets shot and we don't have signage up there.
So, I think, Shannon, what I'm gonna do is I'll email DEC
Okay.
and see if I can get some more information.
Yeah.
But, I mean, for tonight's purposes, we're in agreement that we wanna pass up non-lead. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
And then the next part would be the B part, and that's getting people to sign before they go and hunt on city property.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a way to do that and we can package it that it feels more like it's for a purpose and not a
Right.
restriction.
Right, not a restriction.
Like if it feels like we wanna track, you know, obviously we have the deer.
Here's ammunition, it's not a restriction.
Right, right, like we have the deer management program, we're obviously trying to keep a closer eye on who's hunting on city property, as opposed to like, well, we really want you to come in, like, you know, because I think it depends, the perception of it and how it's received will depend on how it's packaged,
Right.
for sure.
Is there any way, Chris, I'm just asking just in case, because you knew more than I thought you did before. Is there a way to have it so that people can know if they're in zones, or if other people are in zones? Like, is there any mechanism so that we don't have people on top of each other, or walking, or hiking in places?
I don't know, I mean, I don't think you have to agree to participate in like a tracking application on your cell phone,
Okay.
like Onyx or something like that.
If you wanna hunt on state land, right, you wanna go over Gilbert Lake, the last item, you have to get permission, right? Don't you have to get different certifications?
There are certain properties that the state owns where they require you to get special permission. Like Lake State Park, because they campground, they require that you get permission to hunt their property because it's generally used as a camping location.
Right.
But like if you go up into, say,
Yeah, like off of 205, there's state.
Valentine State Forest in Cobblestone, New York, I
Right.
know that because, I live out that way, but, you can hunt that without any permission.
You don't have to do that separate.
State forest land.
Right.
There's different terminologies that they have.
Different between a
Designated.
park and a state
Yes.
land.
Yes.
Yeah, so now that it's Wilbur Lake Recreation Area, it might be different than,
I think
Whatever.
because we can designate whatever we want.
Right. I mean, because the idea now is to have more people up there for recreational purposes, so when you're saying like, at Gilbert Lake, you need permission because people are camping and swimming, playing volleyball and having their weddings, you know?
Mhm.
Like,
We're creating trails up there.
So maybe it is worth being a little bit more restrictive about the hunting out there. And just to do it in a safer way, not to discourage people from doing it, but just to have more,
Right.
oversight.
Okay.
Is there a real app? Is that a thing that you said, or is that something we'd have to do?
I don't know if it will track you for other people. I mean, there are apps that, like, I track my daughter, she's 16-year-old, I can track
Oh,
her.
okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Maybe we
but
can create
as far
something,
as
I don't know.
Hunting app.
Or you just show up as like a dot. Like
Well,
there's a
right,
dot
that's what
over
I'm saying,
there.
like, if we could just like connect people, like, oh, you're on the City of Oneana hunting system, and here's where other people are.
We'll move the non-lead up,
Okay,
and then I'll work on the EDC part and
Okay.
I'll come back. So, Carrie and Greg will just use
do
this
you know
as
that
part
app?
B
Oh,
will
you
be,
know more than I thought you.
I'm sure.
B of this will be coming back and we'll visit the signing to hunt, getting permission to hunt on city-owned property.
So you're moving up the ordinance, which will apply in the city of Old Township only, right? So nothing, right now, nothing will change in the watershed.
No, the non-lead will change everyone's. I mean, to Katie's point, you would be hard pressed to use a firearm in any of the parks inside the city boundaries.
Right, I'm just saying the ordinance only applies to city boundaries. So if you wanna also have a second motion that establishes a new rule for city-owned property in the watershed or anywhere,
Oh,
I think there needs to be two
two
motions.
separate things.
You know, an ordinance is one thing that's in the city, everything
Yeah.
outside the city would be just city property that we own, the rule that we
Okay.
established.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we should do both, personally. I mean, because otherwise, yeah, I mean, I think they're
It's
going
not
to be
having
very
any
limited.
effect inside the city boundaries.
Right.
So, yes, two parts. And then we'll continue working on obtaining permission to hunt on city property outside of the city boundaries.
That was more fun than I thought it was gonna be, guys.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
Do you want these
Thank you,
motions?
Mr. Mason, for coming again.
Go ahead.
Do you want these on council consent or discussion?
Well, it's unanimous for us here.
We
so-
said they were gonna pass them, we just asked to send it back.
Right. And everybody was in favor of that.
Yeah.
I mean, the general sense was that everybody thought that was a good idea. We just needed to kind of hammer it out, so.
Right.
It'd probably be consent. And if not, somebody can pull it.
Right.
The ordinance will probably not be next week. The ordinance will be next week.
Right, because it
The
would get
other motion
delayed.
for city-owned property could be next week, various
Yeah.
ordinance.
No,
Do you want them to go together, just wait two meetings, or?
I
would
would
agree.
see both of them go at the same time.
Yeah.
I agree.
Otherwise, it's pretty confusing probably.
And
for
I'm,
people.
yeah, I'm not gonna be here next meeting.
So it'll be the July 1st, I think.
Sounds good.
July 1st, okay, that's right.
Can we get the fireworks thing over with?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, just it seems like it will be,
Can we just do the ethics?
okay. It's your meeting.
So was there any part of the language that David emailed, you just reread Carrie's email, right?
I did.
Yeah.
And
So I'm just trying
I
to
did
find.
have a question, of course.
Um, So do you wanna go out to, public referendum? That's where we're at. Do we
So,
wanna-
I was wondering about that only because of so the idea for this really came from the equitable distribution of the redistricting commission, which is also in the charter. So, I don't know, I was trying to form a question for Mr. Merzick, but I guess, short story, if it does need to go out to a referendum,
sketches are, but, we won't be talking about this.
Yeah, I understand, but I appreciate your time. and your
Okay.
Of course, yeah, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Why Chris hasn't brought himself a comfy seat is beyond me.
I know, like a
What's
stadium
that?
I
cushion.
said, I still don't understand why you don't get me those bleacher seats.
Oh,
Is that not there?
That's a good idea, we should just get a few of those anyway.
he
just
must
to
be
put-
on the line.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, Carrie, in order for us to go to public referendum and August 4th deadline, is there anything else that we need to?
I will put the change into final format, it'll go through similar to what the redistricting and term modifications went through.
Okay.
So they'll be laid in front of the council will vote, there will be public input. If the council votes to move it forward, it'll be approved pending the referendum, at which point it will go to the public in November.
And we can do that at the next meeting?
Two meetings, you do that at July meeting.
July meeting?
Yeah. I think referendum, statutorily it is one public hearing, but the trend, the precedent that we have done with the others is that we hold like a general input public hearing beforehand. So
Same meeting before the vote,
I would do,
public hearing, next meeting vote.
yes. So I think I can get a public hearing in for the, whatever June meeting is, get some input there, and then it will be laid for vote for the first.
Of July.
Another public hearing the 15th,
Right.
and then be good to go. Because in the meantime, I can write the referendum statements and materials and all that, so that it's ready.
See, that wasn't that bad.
That wasn't that bad.
Tree board,
Who wrote all of this? The tree ordinance draft? Who wrote it all?
The environmental board.
Environmental David Ainsworth, I believe, was the primary writer.
We can see staff review.
I have not
Oh,
seen it.
no,
you haven't seen it?
didn't you want one?
Yeah, you wanna see it?
Well, yeah, no, I'm not gonna, I'm not doing anything until you guys sign off
I know,
on this.
that's wild.
Thank you.
7 pages.
All right, so in light of the fact that,
Wait a minute.
our DPS superintendent has not had a chance to review this ordinance and that it would fall within his purview, I think table that tree board work till the next meeting.
Immediately, I have questions.
You could keep it, Chris.
Did you?
Yes. Well, okay, so we're saying,
I'm just one voice, so you guys want to table this?
yes.
Yeah, that's
but-
fine. Wait, what?
Yes, I just
What?
have questions already. Well, because
Good.
this
Yeah,
says-
it was interesting.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll review.
Chris, can you, give us your thoughts prior to this though, prior to our next meeting though?
Thank you.
Next meeting, next month?
You have like a month,
Yeah, next month,
so you're good.
yeah. We're low maintenance.
Well, we used to be high meetings for
Very
2
high.
weeks.
Oh, sure.
So, on to the hot topic.
Fireworks.
Let's chat about it.
Let's chat about it. So, on a school night, should be completed before 10 p.m. And I know that, what is it, 5% of the city residents, 3% of the city residents are signed up for Nixle, but Nixle, Facebook, the local paper. I know advertising company that would put it out on a digital sign or two for nothing.
Well, cause maybe people wanna watch it
Or-
too.
Yeah, exactly.
Cause we just heard it happening and we ran outside and missed most of it. Carrie, you got out, cause I just got to see it.
So,
Hmm.
right, anything within the school calendar year, I don't know how to wordsmith this thing. Anything within the school calendar year will be
Before 10.
before 10 p.m., be completed before 10
Right.
p.m.
And whatever time is on your permit is the time it has to happen. it can't be.
I would say,
Written into law already, that's in the state.
Yeah, she gave us the
Right.
penal law, which,
But isn't there like a window? Oh, I thought it was like,
That's what I said.
I thought there was like an hour plus or minus, but I was gonna say, can we do it so that if your thing is scheduled at 9:30 and it should be concluded by 10 and you go off late, like you cannot.
so we'll
No, so
reference,
it's not, it's in, it has to,
we'll reference the penal law, because I don't think I was in it before, right? It is?
wait, so have we, on every 4th of July, no, 'cause we don't say when we're gonna do it, right?
We say
It's just at dusk or whatever.
9 o'clock, and they're usually 9:03, that general.
So no.
Right, so there's July, so,
That's, when
So
school
that's
is
fine.
out.
Right? I like that about the
It
school
is.
year. I mean, that's, so for me, like, I guess I'm misunderstanding how, because it seems like our legislation is sufficient to prevent that from happening, right?
Mhm.
No?
There's nothing in the legislation outside of New York City's laws that indicate when to be set off.
But we have a noise ordinance.
We have a 24-hour noise ordinance for reasonableness.
But, hold on. Because it says here,
The only times that the noise ordinance are referencing construction and garbage.
garbage, yeah.
but it also says, like, we're talking about church bells, we can't ring church bells between 10 and 7. So, I mean, that wouldn't be a reasonable, I mean, I don't know. I know we have a 24-hour voice control, but, like, it seems like there are so many things that it says we can't do this after 10,
That's not one that's mentioned, yeah.
but it has to be mentioned specifically.
Otherwise, it's not an exception. And I know that sounds flippant, sorry. but
No, I mean, I
Tell me
get it.
Dare you, Carrie?
Don't tell me I can't do it.
You're so flippant.
Okay.
Okay, so then let's put it in there, let's be
Fireworks.
hyper specific.
So the penal law is mentioned in there. We're gonna put a time, again, I'm just one voice, so I'm just thinking within the school year, be done before 10 p.m.
Sure.
I think just in general, be done before 10.
I agree. You don't need to be doing fireworks after 10
Those-
p.m. No organized fireworks display is happening after 10 p.m. except New Year's. But we don't, no, they don't do that anymore. They used to. They don't do that anymore.
And then public notice, if we list all those out, are we in trouble if we conform ourselves to those?
Of course.
I mean, trouble is that,
Could we make that an internal policy as opposed to a ordinance requirement?
so like when they're signing up, instead of having it on the books, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we can do that internally. We had done that when they did their test run for last year's show. We had done notifications in advance. We got more anger than we did appreciation.
No, no.
But we can, we'll try to get.
For
What are they called, what are they mad about?
So within that, working document inside your office, can you just have notify the council and the mayor?
What are they
Working
mad
document.
about?
The big
Why we
thing.
Like the office policy is what she's saying.
Why do we allow fireworks?
Scared you again?
So people don't want any fireworks.
This. So instead of us saying,
Humbug.
you've gotta get
Oh,
Nixle,
I see.
Daily Star, blah, 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 blah,
Right.
make it inside the
Yeah, of course,
office policy.
of course. That's kind I mean, so that's, you know, like, we were talking about, I just feel like we need to have nixels for everything, but then how does it, you know, because Mike was saying, well, how do we get people to have the agenda? Like, people who care can text agenda to 888-77 or whatever it is. You know, people who care can text fireworks too, but then it's like, how many things are you noticing? And is that ridiculous and excessive?
I think that Nixle maybe wouldn't, Nixle was not well received with meeting agendas. I think I have 12 people signed up for agendas and probably 4 or 5 of them are related to the city.
Okay, nice.
So,
But that's a thing. I mean, I can try to get people signed up. Never say never. People weren't like mad that you
Say
were posting on
never.
the agenda, right?
no,
So,
so what we would do is we would send a weekly meeting list. Following
not us.
Right? I was all
Fireworks
over
are not
Facebook
us.
trying to say that.
Some of the responses you'll watch as I kinda,
Uh-huh.
I will
Yeah.
get to that, it's like, it's just not our,
Not us.
It's not us. So,
so, here's
As
where
much
you
as
can
we
find
love
the
love,
information, but.
yeah, you're very patient on the internet, people.
No, so she didn't say me.
So, well, that was easy, right?
So we're walking away and you've come up with what language, what does the sentence sound like that you're adding?
It doesn't, I will get it.
Okay.
I have the intent.
Key points? What's the intent?
The intent is that the fireworks show shall be completed at any point. In any case, shall fireworks be completed prior to 10 o'clock p.m.
Okay.
And it will reference I presume we're referencing the city school district academic calendar.
Correct.
Or we
What about
could just do
holidays?
September 1st to June 30th.
But wait, why are we
That's
putting
that
the
we don't have
school
to worry
year?
about.
Huh, I thought we weren't gonna put the school year in, because we're just saying 10 o'clock across the board.
That's not how I took it. But
I would also be fine with that. But I would agree, I think September 1st to June 30th, because people don't know the school year and whatever, I mean, it's just, it's variable, but it's always September to June, so if we just say that, then it's like.
Shannon, how do you feel about that? You just wanna go 10 o'clock all the way across the board and be done?
How many people are doing fireworks after 10 o'clock? That's it?
10 o'clock?
10 o'clock,
Then we don't have to,
First night again, something.
yeah.
Well, we could do a variance for that, couldn't we, Greg? We could provide a variance. If they wanna do it for first night, they could come to council for a variance.
Approval, yeah. Yeah, I think that's fine.
because then you don't have to do all the school and the months and all that stuff.
So
just
10
make it
o'clock?
10.
Across the board.
People work. Is there anything else while we're in the noise legislation? Is this going in the fireworks?
in the fireworks.
Just
Okay.
fireworks.
Is there anything else that we should add as an exception to like the noise legislation? Like should fireworks be in there? Should,
I would, so my initial thought is yes,
okay,
but
okay,
I believe it is Click that is reviewing garbage haulers,
right.
and that will impact the noise ordinance.
Okay,
So if
so-
you're going to open it there, I would maybe ask them to, like, do them at the same time, either you
Yeah,
take
yeah.
over or they.
No, they can have it.
Yeah.
Okay,
So, I
Good
know that's a
recommendation, thank you.
conversation for the committee.
Greg, please.
Noise, I've had recent complaints about our cleaning, between midnight, and 6 AM in the morning on Main Street. Where do we fall in the noise ordinance for that?
Clean the streets?
Our guys come in at midnight, we, blow off Main Street into the street, and our street sweeper comes in around 3 AM, and then they hit the Main Street, the street sweeper. We've been getting complaints from residents that live about the noise.
But if you live in New York City, that is like every single night that I just think that's part of living in a city.
Our guys usually leave blowers blow out to the road, and then street sweeper comes through and
Once,
sweeps
once a week?
and I mean,
Tonight.
Once a week.
Yeah.
I mean, if downtown business owners used to sweep and wash their own sidewalks, so if they were doing that, that would be cool.
Yeah, that's a big discussion we've been having at least
Yeah.
for 6 years now, right? So
Yeah, I mean, then they
who's
wouldn't be as much.
maintaining the sidewalks there, so.
I think it's just part of living in a city, right? It's gotta get kept clean somehow. You're not out there like dancing and having a karaoke show. You're out there cleaning.
Yeah, cause by 6 AM, you got people on Main Street going to the coffee shop.
Where else are you supposed to do that?
It's the best time to do it, really.
Right.
Yeah.
You're gonna say Lane, I mean, you live close to Main Street, don't you?
Keep doing it the way you're doing
That's the
it.
hard part.
Don would tell you too. Don.
And you live down there, so.
I live there.
I don't know.
You only,
Yeah.
Okay, good?
Yes, can we, at our next meeting, can we review rent stabilization,
Rent stabilization.
Oh yeah. Yes.
please?
It sure is.
Yeah, and you sent us some stuff.
Yeah.
I'll
So,
forward it back to the top of your inbox.
Greg and
if you want.
Carrie, we're good on this agenda, but if you could add rent
Rent
stabilization to the
stabilization.
next one. And I believe,
And the tree ordinance.
standard probably will be ready to come back, right,
The ethics board, or the ADA.
to the ADA board.
I can get that email to Lynn.
But
Let me see if
who,
I can.
I still wanna know who that saltiness was from.